Syslog was developed in 80s as part of the SendMail project. Now it is already a standard for message logging. If you are interested, you can check this RFC 5424 for the standard details. There are three very important parts in a syslog system, which are the software that generates the messages, the system that stores the messages, and the software that reports and analyzes the messages. These are three different things. So ideally, they should be handled by three different softwares. But in UniFi devices, you may not see all of them. And to support all of them, you may need a lot of manual work. So in this video, let's explore what we can do with Syslog in UniFi devices. Let's first discuss in general how Syslog is supported in UniFi gateway. First, the software that generates logs. For some activities, the system gives you the control about whether to generate syslog or not. For some, it's just system hard-coded behavior, so you cannot change it. Later, we will use firewall rule to specifically talk about that. For now, let's assume, okay, for some activities, the system will generate log. Then go to the second part of the Syslog softwares, the storage used to store the logs. If you go to Settings, System, under Integration, you can see this activity logging. Three options: off, internally stored, or SIEM server. So we will talk about the third option, which is related to Graylog, the real focus for this video. But for now, let's talk about the internally stored. In fact, the logs are stored in a specific folder, in a specific file in the gateway. Let me show you. So in the lower part of the screen, in the left terminal, let me SSH to UDM-Pro. Then go to VAR folder, go to log. Then you can see this folder, ulog. You have this file. It's for the syslog storage, the internal storage. And then you can see this red files. The extension is GZ. The system will monitor the size of this log file. Once it's big enough, the system will archive it, zip it, then generate a new file. For now, we are good about the second part of the software, which is the storage. When it comes to the third part, how to display the logs, how to analyze the logs, Ubiquiti doesn't have a good way. The only thing the UniFi network controller really offers is this per I button here. If you click on it, you can see the tooltip, right? Click on the system log. It will lead you to this screen. And then you have different types of logs. For example, this triggers is for your custom firewall policies. And what you can do is just a simple text display. That's it. You can display the individual of them, but you cannot do any serious analysis because first, you don't have a database. Second, you don't have a analytics tool to do any reasonable advanced analysis. So in general, we talk about the three parts for Syslogs shortly. Now let's use firewall rules to explore what Ubiquiti offers, what it doesn't, how we can achieve what we want. So a lot of things to be discussed. Different types of logs have totally different structures or formats. So we don't have time to talk about all of them. That's why in this video, we will be focusing on firewall policies. You know, in UniFi network controller, there are a lot of built-in default firewall policies. If you don't do any customizing, a lot of firewall policies are already effective. However, I am not aware of a way to specifically enable the default firewall logs in the zone-based firewall. Bear with me. Later, I will explain a trick, but in general, I'm not aware of an official way. Let me show you a custom firewall policy so that we can start with that log. So in security for firewall setting, you can see now I have one and only one custom firewall policy. So if I go to the cell from internal to internal, I have this block inter VLAN policy. At the end of this policy, I enabled Syslog logging. We can validate it. Of course, if you want, you can go to the Syslog button here and display the logs there, right? But I prefer to do it in backend directly. In the left side SSH session, let me run the tail command against the syslog file we just talked about. And here I use the parameter dash capital letter F. So you may know the lowercase f, which means I want to specify this file, right? Capital letter F implies lowercase f plus, remember I talked about the system may generate a new syslogemu file if the old file was big enough, right? If that's the case, if you only use lowercase f, if you have a new log file generated, you won't be able to see the update in real time anymore. So if you use dash capital letter F, the system will ensure you always use the latest log file. Okay, just to explain this parameter, then let me run it. Okay, for now, nothing, right? And then in the right, from this default network client, let me ping another computer in VLAN 10. Remember, this particular custom firewall policy is to block inter VLAN traffic, right? So this ping will fail because of the firewall policy. There should be some syslog generated, right? Let's try it, run. See, in the left side, we have some logs generated. So you can see every time that particular firewall policy is executed, the system will generate a log in this format. We will talk about the format in details later. So let me kill it for now. It is only for custom policy. What if you want to see the logs for all those dozens of default built-in firewall policies, right? How you can do that? I use this trick. If you have a better way, tell me in the comments. So I go to system, go to integrations. I enable the SIEM server. For the options, I disable the select all and I only choose this one, firewall default policy. Save. Even though the real purpose for this setting is to enable the output to external server. For now, what we really want to achieve is to simply log the same information in the internal storage, right, to the log file. And this trick will achieve that purpose. Bear with me. Before we click the apply changes, let's see without this configuration change, what will happen if we try to do something which will go through the default firewall policies. So again, in the left side, let me run the tail command and just clear the screen. Okay, now in the right side, let me run this command. I will query the domain name x.com using the external DNS server 4444. So this traffic will go through the default firewall policy, which is from internal to external, right? The system will allow this traffic by default. If I run it now, yeah, it's successful, but in the left side, nothing is logged because by default, the system doesn't log the default firewall rules. And now go back to UniFi network controller. Now let me apply this configuration change. See, even without doing anything, the system is already busily logging a lot of stuff. So let me kill it, modify the command a little bit. I will use grep command to only show the firewall rules from internal to external. So right, okay, and clear the screen a little bit. Then from the right side, let me run the exact command again. I haven't run it yet, but the system is already logging something else, right? So now I run it. Let me kill the left side. See, the very last log is from this VLAN default client machine. Destination is 4444 and the destination port is 53. So this log is for our right side dig command. It is generated because of the default allow all traffic firewall policy. So now you see the effect for both default firewall policies and custom firewall policies. However, to enable the log for default firewall policies may not be a good idea. The reason is you will realize your logs will become very noisy. You will see a lot of unnecessary logs which you don't care at all. So my suggestion is, if you do need to see some particular traffic, you may want to create a dedicated firewall policy. Because it's custom, you can control whether you use syslog or not. Because I don't like this way of logging default firewall policy, so I will go back to internal start, apply changes, then I go back to security. Now let me create a custom firewall policy to block the client's custom DNS query to external DNS server. Click on the cell from internal to external, create a new policy. I say block custom DNS server. Then for action is block. For destination, I don't care about the external server, but I want to specify the port, so that I select DNS, which is 53 TCP UDP. And here, of course, I need to enable Syslog logging, apply changes. So we have this active custom DNS policy. Now if we go back to SSH in the left side, let me run this tail command again. I still only want to see the logs from internal to external. Okay, now you can see it's not noisy at all. The reason is we disabled the default firewall rules syslogging. Then in the right side, let me repeat the same command which previously was successful. Run it again. Okay, see in the left side, we see the log, and in the right side, we see the failure. This is the effect we expect. Let's use this particular log to start our next part of discussion, which is how you can do something to make the display more user-friendly, to make your analysis easier. A viewer of the channel, Jesse, sent me this very informative, very useful piece of information regarding how he analyzed the syslogs using SSH. So basically he used SED so that he can program some regular expression to parse the syslog, to break it down to different elements, then export it in a very colorful, very user-friendly way. I guess because he used a special SSH client, the client can do something to make the output colorful. Enlightened by his input, I will show you an example which works in my environment by using a generic SSH session. Let's examine the two different custom firewall policies logs again. Okay, so see, this example is for the block custom DNS, right? Before this part, it's just some timestamp and the zone information and then the firewall description, right? Then starting from this part, it's just a pair of key value and followed by another pair. So it's the same pattern. But if you look at this log and this log, you may see they are not in the exact same structure. For example, for the block inter-VLAN log, after the protocol is type, but for the block custom DNS, after the protocol is source port and destination port. So they are slightly different. We need to pay attention to this when we define our display. Then let me show you the output format. Then I will explain how it works. This is the command I'm going to run. Hold your thought. Let me simply run it for now. Okay, see, this is the result I want to achieve. So see here, the first part, it's in white color, italic font. And then this part is in red color, bold font is for the firewall name. And then here is green color. This part is another color, MAC address, another color. Then see, for the block custom DNS, it will export the additional port information, but for the block inter-VLAN, it will end here. Now let's see how it works. This is the command, right? The first part, of course, the same thing. I want to display the syslog in real time. And then see here, SED command is used. I need to provide a string using regular expression. You may know regular expression can achieve very flexible, very complicated string parsing result. But here, thanks to the Ubiquiti's simplicity when it comes to Syslog, most values are in this key equals to value, this pair format, which makes our regular expression much simpler. Here I'm taking a shortcut. The way I specify the regular expression is not very generic. It's not the optimal way, but it works for me. It can be easily changed or copied. You can define whatever format you want. You can achieve the exact same result in many different ways. This character means I start from beginning. If I see this left and right round brackets, that means I want to parse this part, and then later I will output this part. Because this pair of round brackets appear the first, it will have sequence number 1. So later I will export the value later. Then here I simply say whatever value you get. Basically this part will match the timestamp. And then here is hard-coded my gateway name. And then later it will match this part, the firewall description. See, I don't have the round brackets for this part of string, right? Which means I want to skip them in my output, right? It's just my choice. You can do whatever you want. Then this part is the second substring I want to capture. So I want to capture whatever string in the double quotes, which is the firewall policy name. Then here I capture the in value, out value in a similar way. So I don't want to waste your time. It's very simple. And then starting from this protocol is a little bit different. The reason is, as I explained, after the protocol for different firewall policies, it may be different. Here I simply say, okay, match the protocol, but here it will end when the value is not space. So this character means not. Then starting from this one, it will match differently depending on the firewall policy. Here I have a optional match, so which is the source part and the destination part. For the block inter VLAN, this part won't match anything, right? That's why I specify a question mark here just for optional matching. I know in such a short time there's no way I can explain this in a very detailed way, but if you want, you can do your own research about the regular expression. And here, after this $sign, that means the string parsing is done. And then starting from here is the output. So after parsing the string, how I want to output the result. You can see for each value, I have different color code. So you can search ANSI escape sequences. It has all the different control about the output format. For example, this part, it specifies how to specify the bold, italic, and then here you have different color codes. So that's how I get the value. I use them in my customized output format. So for different value, I choose different color, different font. Yeah, that's the brief explanation about this SED's parameter. Okay, after running this, I achieve this result I want. So basically, this type of way is kind of like, remember in the beginning of the video I mentioned for Syslog, the third part of the software is to display or analyze the Syslogs, right? Yes, in this way, you can achieve a pretty user-friendly way to analyze them. But again, it's not from database. You can only display what you can see on a screen, and you have to customize the display, and it's not very generic. For different firewall rules, you may introduce your own regular expression, right? It's a lot of work. I show you this example. It's just want to give you an idea. In my opinion, the good way is to export the Syslogs to external software. That's what we are going to focus on in this video, and I'm going to pick Graylog as the external tool. Graylog is a very popular SIEM or security information and event management software. It can manage logs. It has multiple versions. In this video, I'm going to use the free open source version. It's Graylog Open. So you can install it in multiple ways: containers, standalone machine, high availability. I chose the simplest Debian-based single Graylog node installation. You can simply follow the instruction here. Install the MongoDB, the data node, and then the Graylog itself. Pretty straightforward steps. I won't waste your time showing you how to install it. It may take you 15 minutes to complete everything. Okay, this is the freshly installed Graylog. We haven't configured anything yet because we are going to use it to store the logs and to analyze the logs, right? In the UniFi network controller, we need to configure the system to export the Syslogs to Graylog. So I need to go to settings, system, integrations. You can see now for activity logging, the configuration is internally stored. That's why we were able to do the analysis using SSH in the gateway's backend, right? Now I want to change it to SIEM server. And here I need to first configure what type of logs I want to export. By default, it selects everything. For this video, I only want to analyze custom DNS policies logs, which is included in the triggers category, so not in this firewall default policy. I don't want to analyze them in this video, so that's why I only select the triggers. And then I need to configure the IP address for the Graylog server. So I already checked, it's .2.178. Then for port, I can give it a custom one. So for this video, let me choose 518. Then I am good. Apply changes. Okay. Then in the left side for Graylog, let me go to System, Inputs. Because it's freshly installed, there's no input yet. I need to select a type. Here I select Syslog UDP. Then launch new input. And I need to give it a name. Let's say Lab-UDM-Pro. Then for port, see in the right side, I specified as 518. Then I don't want to change these settings, and for this option, store full message, yes, I want to say yes. Launch input. Okay, see, it is showing running, so it is receiving logs now. Then let's check what messages are received. So click this button, show received messages. Okay, so it is already receiving the existing logs. If you want, you can click this button and set the refreshing intervals, let's say 1 second. Then you will see the real-time change here. So we can do a testing, right? So in the lower right of the screen, let me have some activity. For example, let me dig x.com. See, the log is showing here, right? And then if I do some inter-VLAN ping, and see here, it's showing the firewall policy log. Perfect. Stop the refreshing. Currently, we already easily achieved whatever we can do in the SSH in gateway backend, right? But of course, Graylog has much more to offer. If you are familiar with any modern business intelligence tools, you know they can easily build a dashboard to slice and dice data and to show you beautiful charts, right? To achieve that, you need to first have data stored in database. You cannot rely on plain text storage. So that's the next part we need to focus on, which is, okay, from UniFi Gateway, you already received the raw message in the pure text format, right? How you can decode the logs and save them in different fields of the database of Graylog. To achieve that, you have to do some type of programming like work. Very light coding work, but you have to do that. And more specifically, I prefer to use regular expression. From system menu, go to inputs. So this is the one we just created, right? Then let me click this button, manage extractors. Extractor is the term used by Graylog for those custom logics you use to get the structured information out of the syslog and then save to database. In Graylog, it's referred as extractor. About extractors, especially about extractors for UniFi gateways. If you use paid version of Graylog, you may have the extractors built in, or you may be able to purchase it. And even for the free Graylog, if you want, you may search the so-called Graylog marketplace to see whether someone else already provided free extractors for UniFi gateway. But I personally prefer to start from scratch, build my own extractors for two reasons. First, it's not difficult at all. Second, if I build the extractors by myself, I have complete control. Even in the future, there's any format change in the source, I can easily adjust the extractors to still make it work. But if you rely on the free marketplace extractors, for example, you are depending on other people, which is what I want to avoid. Okay, it's just my choice. When it comes to build your own extractors, I had a video for Graylog and pfSense in my channel. So in that video, I explained how to build extractors for pfSense syslog. It's a very painful process. On one hand, pfSense provided a very detailed BNF format documentation for the syslog. Great work, pfSense. That's much better than Ubiquiti. But on the other hand, because of the way the syslog is structured in pfSense, it's not very easy to do extractor programming. Today in this video, we are talking about the extractor for UniFi gateway syslog. On one hand, Ubiquiti doesn't offer any documentation regarding the structure of the syslog. That's bad. But on the other hand, later you will see the real work is much easier than pfSense. You will understand why very soon. In Graylog, for the input we just created, let me click this button, Manage Extractors. Now let me create our very first extractor. Click this button. To work on an extractor, you must have an example message or log. So you can use this blue button to load a existing message. Okay, see, this time we load a log which is not for custom firewall policy. The reason is, see the right side, these three content types, they are here by default and you have no way to remove them. And for Graylog, when it loads an example message, it will simply load the very latest message. So it's very possible you won't get the message you want if you just click the load message. It doesn't matter. Go back. Let me click this show received messages again. For now, we don't have one yet. So let me enable the real-time refresh, and then in the lower part terminal, let me do a dig again, and then see here we have a log we want, right? So stop refreshing. For example, I want to use this particular log as an example, right? I can click on it, then let me copy the message ID. See, we have a index name here, Graylog _0. Then go back, click the manage extractors again, create extractor. Then here, instead of load a message, I click the message ID, then paste the ID I just copied. Then here for index, input the name I remember, Graylog _0. Then load message. See, this is the exact log we want to work on. So now we have a starting point. We have a log to work on. Currently, see those bold font things, they are existing fields. So they are already part of the database table by default. So you can see we have the full message, we have the message, which is part of the full message, and then we have timestamp. See, the timestamp is in UTC, and then we have the source. We can use it to identify our gateway name. So we have a very good starting point. Now we can work on our very first extractor. So see, this message is a very good thing for me to work on because it is the original raw message without the timestamp. So then in the right side, click this select extractor type. See, for each field, you have a select extractor type button, which means you can program your extractor based on each available field. Because I click on this button, which means I want to start a extractor creation based on this particular message field. That's what I'm really doing. Then here I say regular expression. Remember I mentioned I prefer regular expression to parse the string, right? So I will create a extractor with the type regular expression. Click on it. Okay, this is the message field we start from. Here we need to input the regular expression. As the very first step, I want to get the firewall policy's technical name, which is the one in the square brackets. I need to write a regular expression to get this part of substring. I will start with a caret sign. This sign means I want to start the string parsing from the very beginning. Then I say dot plus. Dot means any character. Plus means one or more than one character. Then I say space. If I have a space here, the system will try to match a space, right? So see, where is the space? The space is here in the original message. Then after space, I have the square bracket. And because the square bracket has special meaning in regular expression, to match the character square bracket, I need to have a escape, then followed by the left square bracket. So this means I want to match a left square bracket because I want to get this part inside the square brackets, right? As I explained previously in the SSH SED command, similarly, we need to use the round bracket, which means I want to extract the value out. Inside the value, what I want is any character, 0 or more characters, then right round bracket, then I want to match the right square bracket. After that, for all the remaining part, I don't care, because for this extractor, I want and only want to get the technical name for the firewall policy. I don't care the other things, so I simply type in dot star, which means, okay, whatever left over. So this is the regular expression I want to use for this extractor. I can test it. So let me click on try. This is the result. This is exactly what I want. Perfect. Okay, move on. For condition, okay, for this case, I always want to try it. Then store as field. I want to give this field a name. So let me say FirewallPolicyTechName. Then for extraction strategy, I don't want to modify the original field message. So I say copy. The extractor title, which means I can give this extractor a user-friendly name. getFirewallPolicyTechName. I don't need to add a converter, so later we will use this one, but not for this extractor. I'm good. Create extractor. Go back to the inputs and then let me show received messages again. In the lower right window, let me do the dig one more time. Then refresh. Okay, we have the example message. Click on it. Then let me copy this new message ID. Go to inputs. Manage extractors, create a new extractor. Here I want to say custom message ID, then paste the ID I just copied. For index, it's the same, Graylog _0 load message. So see here, you see our previously parsed firewall policy technical name, right? And then because we select copy the original field so that the original message still remain untouched, so we can continue work on this message field. Click the extractor type, select regular expression. This time, what I want to do is very simple. I simply want to get this part of the substring and see what's the pattern in this part. This substring is separated by space, and for each part, it has a pattern. It's like this: key equals to value. All the substrings inside this selected part has the same pattern. For this type of string parsing, we do not need to write our own regular expression because Graylog provided a very convenient way. It's called converter. So you will see, in fact, this is why I said even though Ubiquiti hasn't provided the documentation for the syslog format, because the structure is like this, we can easily parse them without any effort. Of course, in this regular expression part, I need to get this selected substring, right? To get it is very simple. We simply say caret, which means start from the beginning, dot plus space, which means I want to skip this part. For this gateway name, we already have it in separate field. For this firewall technical name, we already pass it. So we don't care them. We want to skip them, right? So that's why I write something like this. And then for the remaining part, we want to keep it. So that's why I want to have a round bracket. Then I say DESCR equals to dot star round bracket. It will match all the way to the end of the string. So this is how easy this matching is. And we simply want to match everything all the way to the end. So let me try it. See, this is the exact substring I want to get. Yes, I always want to try it. I want to store the value in a field. Let me name it as FirewallLog. Then for strategy, I want to say copy. For extractor title, I want to say getFirewallLog. Then here, this part is important. That's the converter. The system will help us to parse this type of substring, which is key equals to value, right? Click the drop down. I select this one, key equals to value pairs to fields, okay? And then I say add, okay? It's added. We are done with this extractor. Create extractor. So now we want to validate it. Let me go back to the input, show received message. Let me create a new firewall message. Okay, then here I refresh. Yeah, I got the message I want. Stop. Then for this one, click on it. Now all of a sudden we have many new fields. We have the description, the destination part, destination IP address, and ID, in interface, the longs, MAC address, all the things. We get them effortlessly thanks to the converter. We are not completely done yet, so let me copy this particular message ID, go back to input, manage extractor, create a new one, then paste the message ID, Graylog 0, load message. We are almost there. This time I don't want to start from scratch from the message, because what I want to do is see this firewall policy technical name. I'm interested to break it down to 3 parts. This part, LAN, is the source zone, and the one is the destination zone, and this ID is the firewall policy ID. So that's why the starting point for me is this particular field. Here I say create a new regular expression extractor. Okay, for the regular expression caret, then immediately I want to match this part. So that's why I need a round bracket, and I want to match anything inside it. So that's why 1 or more characters. Then I want to match the underscore. The underscore is how I can separate the from zone and the target zone, right? That's why here I need to match the underscore. But underscore is a special character in regular expression. So to match underscore, I need to use the escape sign. Okay, this means I want to match the underscore. Then for the remaining part, I don't care. So that's why I say dot star. That's it. Try it. See, I got what I want. To store it, let me say from zone. For extractor title, I say get from zone. I don't need a converter for this one. Create extractor. Okay, so then let me create another extractor in the same way. Use the same message ID. And again, let me start from this field. Create a new extractor. And this time I want to match the 1, which is the to zone, right? So caret to start from the beginning, but this time I want to skip the from zone, then I want to skip the underscore sign, then I want to match this part, right? I need to have a round bracket. I say match everything. Then where I want to stop, I want to stop at the dash, but you can see in this string there are 2 dash signs. If I simply say this, have a dash sign after the right round bracket, because of the system's default aggressive matching behavior, it will match all the way to the second dash sign. That's what I don't want. I want to have lazy matching. How I can do that? Inside the round bracket, I put question mark sign, which means I want to do lazy matching for the dash sign. So in this way, the system will match the first dash sign. Okay, then later for the remaining part, I don't care. I simply say dot star. Let me try it. See, I got what I want. 1. That's the to zone. Save it as a field. To toZone, extractor title, get toZone, create extractor. Let me create the very last extractor, load message. Then this time for the description, the field name is description because in the original raw log it's called description, right? But I don't want this field to be called description. I want to name it as firewall policy. How I can do that? I want to create a extractor, a very simple one. I simply want to say copy input. Then the source field is description, right? I simply want to create a copy. I simply want to name it as firewall policy. Then the extractor title is get firewall policy. That's it. It's simply a copy extractor. It's not regular expression. We are done for the extractors for this video. Of course, you can do whatever you want to extract the string, to parse the string in the way you want. We have all the fields we want to do some simple analysis. Let me show you a dashboard I created in just several minutes. This is the layout for a Graylog dashboard. So you have a global time filter. So you can choose the different predefined time range. For now, I select the past 30 minutes. And then here you can choose the static display, or you can make it refresh automatically. And then here I put a global filter because there are other Syslogs, but I am only interested in these two particular firewall policy. So that's why I restrict the firewall policy in this way. Then I created 3 widgets. The first one is a pie chart. It's just firewall logs count by policy name. And the second one is the message count by from zone and to zone in bar chart. And then the third table is the message display. So here you can see the corresponding logs which contribute to the charts. Okay, of course this is a very primitive dashboard, but you can use your creativity to create very fancy reports, analytics based on the field names you extracted. Okay, this is the end of the video. Thanks for watching.